All right, so everything is closed out for both phones, as you can see right here. And we'll just start with the basic row, which is going to be calendar. And you'll see that animation was faster on the S25. We'll go into clock now, faster on the S25. And as we go through these different tabs, once in, it doesn't really matter. Now we are looking at 12 gigabytes of RAM on the left, and that was faster on S25. And then we do have 4 gigabytes of RAM on the right. So the S25 actually has 3 times the storage. So while they might not be giving you as much as you might see on some newer phones in the 13 and trade-in value, you still will get 3 times more the RAM if you do the upgrade. Let's go into Samsung news versus Apple news. And Samsung's news is in beta, but it was still faster. Let's go over here to following. And I'll just go over here to these two right here, tech right here. And as we swipe through, you can see a little bit jumpy scrolling there on the Samsung, but very fast. Smooth scrolling here, but 60 hertz. And generally the way you scroll through, you can fly through this to get to a specific article. This one is going to take a few more swipes to get to the end of the page. Sometimes it's a little bit slower, but generally I do find that the Apple News is a little more polished. It's been around a lot longer, so that would make sense. Let's go into Play Store, App Store, much faster on the left. And we'll go into X and faster on the left. I don't know if the iPhone is going to win even a single test here, but I could be wrong. Let's go into Subway Surfers on both. And the Samsung Galaxy S25 blazing ahead. So this is a good video to showcase, like if you did have a 13 and you finally wanted to jump up to a newer Samsung phone and try out Samsung, you'll see that you are going to get a nice performance boost. We'll go to Groupon, that was faster on the Samsung. We'll go to categories here. How about tickets and events? And as we swipe through, both of them pretty good once in, but the Samsung seemed to do that a little faster. Let's swipe out. We'll go into Dead Trigger 2. And you'll see that that was much faster on the Samsung. Here comes the iPhone. And this is not just a couple of seconds with these two. This is substantially faster. All right, so let's go ahead and run Brawl Stars in 3, 2, go. And you can see that one is going to the Samsung once again. And nope, it's going to be the Samsung on this one. We were downloading a bit of content, so I'm going to go ahead and run that again just to make sure it was in fact the S25. And because this one was downloading some content. Now, okay, that one went to the iPhone. So our first win is actually here because that was actually downloading content. Let's go into RTS, Race the Sun, and we'll see what happens here. And looks like Samsung's in the win again. And here comes the iPhone. And we'll head up out of here. We'll go into Call of Duty on both. And we'll see what happens here with Call of Duty. So Call of Duty is loading first there on the Samsung, but will it get to the lobby first? We'll have to see. Hopefully they're not in the same accounts, or it's going to close me out. I don't think so, though. Yeah, so the Samsung did win that test. Let's go ahead and swipe up out of here. We'll go into Free Fire, and Samsung in the lead again. So you will see, if you are coming from the older iPhone 13 or even maybe 14, you are going to see a pretty big leap in your upgrade to your S25. So Samsung's doing a good job here in 2025 of making the phones feel a lot faster than they used to. Geekbench 6 was a little faster on the right. LumaFusion loaded that faster on the left, but had a pop-up. We'll go into speed test on both. And that seemed to load first on iPhone. So the iPhone did have a couple W's on a few app loads, but the majority of the apps were just simply faster on the Samsung. We also do have 120 hertz refresh, which this one has 60 hertz, so that's something to note as well, another upgrade. But definitely, I would say app test easily, by a long shot, goes to the S25. So, I mean, not that you didn't expect it, but you've seen that if you do have this phone and you're going here, the upgrade is going to be pretty darn noticeable if you're trading in your 13. All right, so let's do some RAM management here now and see what happens here. And you'll see 12 gigabytes of RAM should showcase some of the best performance. We did have a reload there on Brawl Stars, but I believe it was going to the initial launch page. So it's not technically reloading because I think the iPhone's going to do the exact same. And you can see here, really smooth animations, very fast on One UI 7. No substantial issues, and the ability to take advantage of this screen size. Even though it's not the biggest, you can still do split screen multitasking. Let's go ahead and take it over here to the iPhone, and we'll see how this one does. Even with 60 hertz, and even being the age of the 13 is, while it's not like overly impressive, it's still surprisingly good, meaning surprisingly usable. Now, this kind of like locked me up. We reloaded, and I can't get out for some reason. I don't know what's going on here. Is it the game center that's stopping me from getting out? I'm like stuck in this game. Let me go ahead and see if I can get out now. Yeah, see, that was weird. Like, I was stuck there. You see that I had to lock the screen, unlock it to get out. So we are now starting to reload there on Dead Trigger. That one is open. That one was open. Subway Surfers with a reload. And 4 gigs of RAM. Another relaunch there. It's kind of just pausing the app so you can't scroll. That's closed out. So the 4 gigabytes of RAM is definitely noticeably weaker on this iPhone 13 than what you'll find on current phones like the S25. And here are the final Geekbench scores, and you could see 2396 versus 2295. So that single core shockingly is only 100 points better on the Samsung, but the multi-core 3000 points, so that's pretty substantial. Let's go ahead and do a 3D mark now, and we'll see what kind of graphics we'll get here, graphics results. But that was pretty shocking that single core was still that good on the iPhone 13. So what that means is that your day-to-day use, your casual use, the majority of 13 Pro, Pro Max users will not likely notice any substantial slowdown until they start pushing the phone with multitasking or app switching on iPhones, because you can't truly multitask. I'll be back when they're done with 3D Mark. And so we've pulled way ahead here on 3D Mark. Look at that FPS difference. That's more than double the speed there on the Galaxy. So when we actually do get into a game where we do have to test graphics and stuff of that sort, not only are they going to load faster on the Samsung for the majority of the part, but actually in gameplay itself, it's actually going to be pretty noticeable. The iPhone also has a glass back, which Samsung does as well, but because it's a pure glass back, you really feel it, and this phone is already extremely hot. The iPhone is here. But when we get into the games themselves, the graphical performance should stay smoother here on your newer Samsung Galaxy S25. So it is something to take note of. If this is something you do a lot, you will want to consider doing the upgrade. But sometimes even the games run fine on the 13 because a lot of them are optimized for mobile. You're just going to have to wait a little longer for them to load and deal with a little bit of a hotter phone. But both of these are a little bit warm here. I can tell you the S25 base doesn't do better than the Ultra. Why am I stuck there? The S25 base doesn't do better than the Ultra. Here we go with the iPhone here. And the guys on my team? Oh, those guys are on my team. Anyway, this area, even though this phone is older, it still can do these things pretty well just because these games were optimized for phones. But again, I would steer you towards doing the upgrade if you game a lot. There's also much better options than even Galaxy phones for gaming. But if you want like a premium phone that still has really great performance, the 8 Elite and the Adreno 830 in these newer phones is incredible. All right, so let's see which one can pull in the better Wi-Fi speeds. We'll start here with the Samsung Galaxy. And that is pulling in some pretty respectable speeds there. I do quite like it. 322 down. How can we do on the upload? And then we'll come in after this with the iPhone 13. And we're going to download right around 342. Now on upload, we're at about 42, 41-ish. So not bad at all there. And it does look like we're about to finish up there. Now let's go ahead and see if the iPhone is behind. I do expect it 123 or so. So you can see we were down more than 120 on this one. So even the upload is slower. So that's one thing too with these older iPhones coming over to an upgrade this year. This is not just Samsung. If you go to a newer iPhone, you will get better connectivity, but Samsung still outshines the iPhone, even the 16s, in connectivity. So this is an area where I drastically noticed the difference between a Samsung phone and an iPhone. All right, and let's see which one can launch their cameras first in 3, 2, go. And that was faster on the iPhone. Let's go ahead and do it again. 3, 2, go. Yeah, the iPhone faster. What about shutter speed? And what about zooming? So you see that right there? That's something I don't like about Samsung phones. The zooming is not as smooth as it could be. Look at this right here. This is really smooth to go through the lens here. So, I mean, it's just a minor little thing, but I do like that more on iPhones. And the cameras are still pretty basic and really good on the iPhone, but they are better for sure. What you're getting with the Samsung triple camera 8K. I mean, you're really just destroying it there. So wrapping it up, if you were deciding to do an upgrade this year from the 13, I think the Samsung S25 or maybe the upcoming Edge, if you want that super thin build, would be a nice change. But also, if you love iPhone, you might as well just wait now till the 17s if you want an even better upgrade from the 13. But all the 16s are still decent upgrades, but I think the 17s are going to be even more enticing. Thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you on the next episode. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.